Cardano's member-based organization, also known as the Intersect MBO, has just released Cardano's annualized budget for the year of 2025, ranging anywhere between 300 to 500 million ADA, which is roughly $90 million all the way to $150 million. So is that too much or is that not enough? As a part of today's video, I want to break down everything that we know so far about the recently released annualized budget. What's up, Beta Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. My name's Fareed. As a part of today's video, we're breaking down the budget process for 2025, given a recent masterclass led by Lloyd and Nicholas Cerny from the Cardano Foundation. So without any further ado, let's jump right on in here. I'll leave the link to the official masterclass recap if you want to watch the video in its entirety. I'll definitely be making sure to do so over the course of the next couple of days. Now, before we go any further, I also want to leave the link to this down below. This is essentially the documentation around Cardano's monetary policy, which talks about rewards for SPOs, the fact that transaction fees go back towards funding the Treasury, and then basically how everything works economically for the ecosystem. So again, it breaks down the policy rationale for different values that basically dictate how profitable and how much funds are going back towards Cardano's Treasury. Now, again, just sort of laying down the foundation here, I also have to highlight the current standing for the Treasury. Links will be left down below, but this is on C Explorer. We can see we're currently in epoch number 519 with 1.58 billion ADA currently in the Treasury equivalent to $524 million. Now, if I jump back over to Nicholas' post here in just a moment, and if you actually want to participate in these chats moving forward, they do have a budget process meeting, which will be virtual. So anybody can jump in and attend. These will be held via Google Meets. We can see the next one taking place on November 5th. We have one taking place on November 7th, the November 13th, the 19th, and I believe that's it so far right now on Luma. Again, links will be left down below. So hopefully that's been a decent introduction there, laying down the foundation. Hopefully giving you guys access to more information about the monetary policies, the actual standings for the Treasury right now. And then, of course, we're going to break down the Treasury. So if you appreciate content like this, please make sure to smash that thumbs up on the way in. If it's your first time stopping by, consider subscribing to Dapp Central. And last but not least, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave those down below. Now, this is just the first video that I'm going to be releasing touching on this particular subject. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts here. There's going to be a lot of different conversations going on. In my personal opinion, could definitely change over time. But let's talk about the current facts and what we know so far. And then I want to hear from you, right, as to whether or not you think that this particular budget makes sense, if it's fair, and if it's something that you're willing to get behind. If not you particularly, then your D-Rep, are they willing to get behind something like this? Again, this is the importance of governance and why it's so, and why we're such at a pivotal stage for Cardano moving forward. So given what we have, again, nearly $500 million in the Treasury, around 1.59 billion ADA, for the year of 2025, Intersect has currently proposed the following, where we're going to have an annualized budget, which will have anywhere between 300 million ADA all the way to 500 million ADA. Now, converting that to USD, that's anywhere between $90 million all the way up to $150 million, given the current valuation of ADA at around 33 to 34 cents. Again, this is nearly a third of the entire Treasury, but do keep in mind that the Treasury does replenish and that it does continue to grow epoch over epoch as the reserves continue to grow, and hopefully as Cardano gets more transaction fees, which a portion of those do go back towards the Treasury. Moving over, in terms of that budget of 300 to 500 million ADA, we're going to see each committee will have a dedicated budget overseen by the budget committee for an efficient and impactful use of those funds. So again, there's a marketing group, there's a product group, there is a content group. I mean, there's a lot of different intersect arms. So each one of those arms will have a dedicated amount of funds that they can use towards pushing their efforts forward, whether that's marketing, content, products, ecosystem development, developer tooling. All of those different things will have their own budgets and be able to basically sort of work within their own parameters or their own constraints. Moving down, in terms of the prerequisites in order to actually withdraw from the Treasury, you're going to have to provide a net change limit, essentially a defined cap on the maximum ADA that can be withdrawn within a set period specified via an info action. So anytime that you're going to want to make a withdrawal to the Treasury, you're going to have to basically put in an information action stating that you want X amount of funds and for this amount of time. So as an example, 73 epochs and a potential request for 300 million ADA. Now, in terms of the actual budget action, that will need to include a detailed breakdown that must be approved before any withdrawal can actually occur. So it's not just going to be, hey, I'm putting in a withdrawal request and I get my funds. You have to go through that initial information action breakdown where you detail why you need said funds. Now, in terms of operational preferences, we have a budget committee, right, which prefers single Treasury withdrawals over multiple withdrawals. So if you're going to be wanting a big amount, for example, like 300 million ADA, you're going to want to make that request once as opposed to trying to make it over and over and over again or periodically. In addition, monthly payment cycles will be basically included or potentially allowed, including stablecoin options for payments or for grants. And so again, I think more options, the better here. Obviously, anytime that there's going to be a withdrawal on the Cardano Treasury, that essentially amounts to sell pressure because 9 times out of 10 projects will need to sell that ADA in order to go ahead and actually convert those funds to fiat in order to complete their day-to-day operations. Now, moving over, this is a tricky piece here. This is talking about leveraging the funds from the Treasury for voting. So it states here, ADA from the budget may be used in the voting processes, and then decisions will ultimately rest with the Intersect members, keeping power in the hands of the community. This is exactly why it's so important to go ahead and make sure that you sign up and join MBOs or member-based organizations like Intersect. If you're not, you're basically not able to tap into the full power of governance here. But let me know what you guys think down below. I think this is one piece where a lot of people are sort of torn. People don't think that ADA from the Treasury should be used in the voting processes, especially given the fact that this is basically everybody's contribution, right? So it's not one particular person's contribution, and therefore people don't think that it's necessarily correct for ADA from the budget to be used for voting. But again, let me know what you think down below. These are different things that we have to be open to discussing, and this is why it's important to jump on those different calls that will be taking place throughout the month of November to be able to state your voice or to sort of speak out and let people know what your opinions are and what you think is correct and why. That's a really important piece. You have to be able to explain why. It's one thing to say, I want this and I want that, but I think it's really important to also bring the reasoning why you believe that that's actually the right choice to make. Now, we are getting close to the end here. Next, we have a portion dedicated to delegating to SPOs. So funds received via the Treasury withdrawal could be delegated to stake pool operators. Now, again, this is obviously super beneficial, but it's like who decides what stake pools get delegated to? And so again, I think as long as this is done transparently, I personally don't have any issues making sure that that ADA is delegated. Obviously, we're going to want that to generate as much ADA as possible. But given how large of an amount that is, do keep in mind that that could potentially take away from rewards that would go to other stake pool operators if this ADA isn't actually staked. So again, really interesting piece here. I think long-term, it does make sense to delegate or to stake this particular ADA. And of course, you want to support all the people that maybe are signed up as a part of the as a part of Intersect's MBO, and then also maybe supporting single stake pool operators. But let me know what you guys think about those particular rewards and whether or not it makes sense for the Treasury to basically have those funds continue to be staked and to secure the network. Now, Nicholas's personal viewpoint here is that delegating to pools, right, for members that are part of the MBO makes sense. And he also references the foundation delegation strategy, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a 1-year rotation, right, between different contributors here, which basically apply for funding or for staking, I should say, based off of the Cardano Foundation wallets. Now here we've got at number 6, the active budget management. So this will be limited to SPO delegations in 2025. And then of course, the actual sort of duties for the budget management committee is to make sure that safety and responsible funds or fund management practices are being applied. Again, if you want to find out more and actually watch the full video, I'll leave the link to that down below, but it is available on YouTube. Now, because of the recent announcements, right, there's been a lot of conversation, and I want to just sort of recap some of the most prominent voices here within the ecosystem. First off, we've got L here. I'll keep this relatively quick, but he talks about some of the pros here, which include controlled spending with the caps, right, and the information actions, the support for decentralization with the staking for the SPOs, the community-driven decision-making, and some of the transparency efforts with the master classes and the different online meetings. But then some of the cons here talking about voting fairness, given the fact that, Treasury funds should not necessarily be used for governance, especially in something, for example, like Catalyst. Again, let me know what you think down below. High budget use. And so he talks about the fact that right now he mentions 1 billion here, but it's actually 1.59 billion. But keep in mind that we do have the reserves and we have ongoing transactions, which do replenish the Treasury. So year over year, we're not going to be spending basically a third because there will be replenishing going on. But it is definitely a high amount to think about. But again, if we're taking the mindset that we're only going to do one withdrawal, right, per year, as opposed to multiple withdrawals, then it makes sense to at least get what we know we're going to need to spend. That way we don't have to come back and continuously make more withdrawals. In terms of the delegation bias here, again, it's going to really be important to make sure that the voting process for who the Treasury funds get delegated to is extremely clear and visible to everybody within the community. Now, one critique again was about the amount of ADA that's going to be spent. Lloyd actually put together the masterclass, but he mentions here, your numbers are a little bit off here. I can show you that the budget is roughly the replenishment rate, and it actually won't touch the core principal balance of the Treasury. If that is in fact the case, and I think that's actually very positive, we don't necessarily want to take advantage of the goose per se, right? We want to obviously take care of the eggs that the goose provides, but we want to make sure to take care of the goose. That way it can continue to provide more eggs over time. So if we can continue to keep that principle intact and make sure to only tap into sort of the profits that come from the existing Treasury amount, then at least we know that we're not spending more than we're bringing in. Now, we also have Hosky, who's also polled the community asking about their sentiment around the recent budget. And as you guys can see here, a lot of people feeling that this gives Intersect too much power. But again, Lloyd confirming a couple of things here, where he mentions Intersect did not say that they would actually be voting with that ADA. And more importantly, Intersect itself would not be receiving the ADA, only facilitating payments and contracts as needed. So one portion here is about the fact that Intersect should basically receive all of the funds. And then depending on whether or not we have more MBOs in the future, Intersect will have the ability to basically distribute the funds to those said entities. A lot of people are saying that gives Intersect too much power. Why not just have all the other MBOs go through their own exact proposals or their own withdrawal procedures? But again, this is all up for debate. Now, we have Dave again talking about, his beliefs here. He's a contributor in the ecosystem, talking about no staking, right, of withdrawn funds, no voting using withdrawn funds. He's asking for shorter budgets with clearer deliverables. And then he promises, to never pass anything that is in the region of 500 million ADA based off of sustainability. We also have Pride, or Stake with Pride, who mentions that they don't want to use any more than 10 to 20% of the existing Treasury in the first year, which is roughly around 150 to 300 million ADA, which again, the 300 million comes in at the lower end of what's currently being proposed for the existing budget that's been put out, which again is 300 million to 500 million ADA. So let me know what you think down below. There's a lot of ongoing conversations here. I just wanted to briefly put this out there. Again, this is just the very first video and probably a series of videos coming out about Cardano's treasury management process. But again, this will do it here. Links to everything down below. Are you bullish on the proposed budget? Are you bearish on it? Let me know what you think down below. But that'll do it here for today's video. If you found any portion of this to be helpful or informational, I would appreciate you if you could smash that thumbs up. If it's your first time stopping by Dapp Central and you want more content like this, breaking down everything going on in Cardano, consider subscribing. And last but not least, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave those down below. That said, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.